Welcome to the MWA podcast. I'm Kyle, and joining me today are my co-hosts, Sean and Brian. We're thrilled to have Andrew Klein of Inclined.com with us. Andy is a maker, inventor, and entrepreneur known for his innovative products and solutions for woodworkers and makers. From his impressive twin screw vises to the game-changing Pika screw hardware, Andy is always introducing tools and products everyone should have on their radar. So welcome to the show, Andy.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Absolutely. It's been a while. I think you were on this podcast like before my time. So that
I was
must have
going to
been
say,
like at least 10 years ago.
I just mentioned it to my wife. I'm like, I think we've talked to him before, but it was probably like Diami, me, and Tom, or some combination
in that
thereof.
era for sure.
Yeah.
Before the twin screw vice. I don't even know what you were doing back then. Or maybe it was at the very, very early days of it.
Boy, we should all go listen to it.
Boy.
Woodwork for thread taps was maybe my latest thing at the time. You know, the Rockler miter fold set were probably the topics of conversation. If I had
it is crazy, but I'm sure the audio quality was absolutely perfect back then. So at your own peril, go ahead and look those up.
Well, should you, brave listener, want to dive into the archives, you can be sure to comment on what we were actually talking about back then, or what the current host at that time were talking about.
Exactly.
Anyway, well, before we get in to talk to Andy and all he's up to, let's check in with our patrons. So who do we have to thank this week?
For sure. You know, we like to give a big shout out to our Patreon supporters. Today, we're giving that shout out to a special guy to me, my dad, Scott Wisniewski. What a guy.
Pops.
What a guy for helping us out. Yeah, Pops Wisniewski. I think it's a running joke in small podcasts like ours that at least our parents listen, and he's living proof. So if you would like to join, my dad in supporting our podcast, you can go to patreon.com/MWA podcast and help us out there.
Well, out of 8 possible parents, yours is the only one, I think.
Hey,
yeah, right?
My wife supports the show.
Okay, there you go. My wife supports me. She doesn't at all support
But does your wife listen to the show?
No, Brian. No. All right.
Which is probably for the best, because then I can buy tools and she'll never.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
That's right. With that, let's move on to what's in the shop. So, Sean, what have you been doing?
So I spent some time in Austin, Texas, the land of Texas.
Yes. I got your text going.
Yeah,
what barbecue place should I go to?
Yeah, that was discussion Monday. So I was stuck at a resort, the Omni Barton Creek, on the west side of Austin.
Yep.
And we had little chance. I didn't drive. I didn't rent a car.
Oh, so you weren't the Omni downtown. You were in
we were at the one down, surrounded by 4 golf courses.
Okay.
Which was all too disappointing when the weather turned rainy, windy, and in the 50s for duration. And the day I left to fly out, the morning it was 34 degrees. I mean, just a bad time of year to be in Austin, unfortunately. But it was a blast, and we did get out to barbecue once outside of the resort. There was a great steakhouse at the resort, phenomenal. Bob's.
Good.
If you're ever at the Omni in Barton Creek, Bob's is it's a simple
Bob's
name.
Chop House.
I think is it wider than that?
Yeah. There's a few locations in Dallas. I think they started in Dallas. I think there's a few locations in Dallas, and then they must have opened up some in Austin.
Yeah, pricey but phenomenal.
Yeah,
and I didn't pay for a cent of it, so I'm fine with it. But we did get out. It was funny because when I texted you, we had already been talking and looking, Googling, okay, we'll barbecue around, and Terry Black had already come up. And then when I asked you and you mentioned Terry Black, my buddy was like, okay, done. We're going there. I've never in my life have seen a beef rib cooked.
Really?
That is no, I mean, I don't go out a lot, and I definitely live in Northwest Ohio. There's not a whole lot of cow slaughtering going on in this area, but that is a massive hunk of meat. I did not have but a slice of it, and it was very tasty, but a good $35 a pound and a half plus, with what more appears like a shin bone than a rib sticking out of it. Phenomenal. The food was great. The atmosphere was great. It was just disappointing that I didn't get to swing a golf club when I was there. C'est la vie. It was awesome. It was awesome. I watched the Super Bowl in a hotel bar. That was what I did in Austin, Texas. So
nice.
it's So
we didn't have to wait too long. It was over by halftime. So.
Yeah, it was disappointing. And you know what? In the environment, I couldn't hear anything. I wasn't too enthused about A$AP Rocky it was Kendrick Lamar in the halftime show, but I couldn't hear that even, and I couldn't hear any of the commercials. So it was more like enjoying the banter between the other people in the bar. One old guy was sitting there. We laughed because the bartender had told us that he had been there for 3 hours, and the little paper piece on top of the straw on this table had never been removed. He was nursing whatever, and it wasn't that water. But he was a Kansas City fan, and he barked at the Eagles fans whenever possible, and then he got really quiet for a long time. But it was entertaining just to kind of to be in that environment. But yeah, so that occupied the last week of my life. Coming home to 4 inches frozen of snow and ice in my car at the Detroit airport. So that was awesome to return to, even though it was it was cooler, but it wasn't the single digits that was at home when I was in the 50s. So whatever. So Brian, how about you? What you been up to?
I have been all over the stinking country recently for sports. It's we've gotten to the point where we're in multiple states now for some larger events, so it's been kind of bouncing around doing that. And
this for your daughter's field hockey, right?
Yeah, and I also started a business just because I had nothing else to do with my time.
Wow. Okay.
Doing recruiting video. I decided since I'm at these events anyways, I might as well monetize my time.
Sure.
So now I do recruiting video for other people to get recruited to sports, college sports.
Wow.
And just had to invest in some equipment a little bit and learn how to edit faster than I do. So it's actually taking off.
Really? I got some videos I could send you to edit.
No, I don't do. I'm not a YouTube video editor. Sports editing is a different story. We do everything from just recruiting video for coaches to like hypey type stuff for their social media. So it's kind of cool.
That's awesome.
I mean, it's slowly I've been staying within field hockey, volleyball, and lacrosse. But there are some other people who are asking about other sports. So it's good. Word of mouth. I haven't advertised at all. And I actually have one guy who drags me around the country with him.
Oh my gosh.
For his daughter.
So he's really interested in getting her, elevated. All right.
Yeah, he is. Nicest guy too.
I love those stories. My sons have played with some guys that honestly like put a little more effort into getting eyes on. I've seen some of my older son, especially some of his playing mates in high school or in travel teams in high school went on to D1 schools, now we can watch them on. It's really cool, really really cool.
Yeah, so it's been cool. But woodworking wise, I haven't got to too much of my to-do list, but I have a local beer club, craft beer club that I belong in, and we're doing like a charity event. So I'm going to do a couple like beer caddies, like 6-pack beer caddies for craft beer. And that's how I'm going to ship the prizes out. So, I'm looking around, I have some nice figured walnut. I think I have some bird's eye maple still that I'm going to use. The last time I made these, people like fought over them. So I'm excited. I'm trying to get back in the shop. Life's getting in the way. So we'll see.
How's the pantry coming?
It's all ready to go, man. I just need a little chunk of money to fall out of the sky to get the get the tile set up and some time. Once March hits, I'll have more time than I did in the past because indoor season will be over. So we'll see. Yeah. But getting there. We I look at I had like an epiphany the other day that I'm like, I have a lot of tools. I'm like, so I'm thinking, what do I really need? What do I still have to acquire? What do I have duplicates of? So I'm kind of thinking about reorganizing the shop a little bit. So we'll see, and kind of keep it moving on. Kyle, how about you?
Been making jig parts as I have been for the last 3 or 4 podcasts. But anyway, I'm on the last one of the last drilling guides I'm doing is a stretcher drilling guide, and those are the parts that are turned and stuff. And I found a new way to make these things, new production process for them. So that's exciting. Before I made these things hollow, they were about 8 inches long, and now they're about 4.5 inches long. So I had constantly been milling the hole that goes through these things on the lathe instead of the drill press, because when it's 8 inches long, it's almost impossible to get a concentric hole there. But now that they're shorter, I went, well, let me try this on the drill press again. And so I've done 2, and they worked fine, but I was switching the drill bits out between the holes, because I start with like a 24 millimeter Forstner bit for the washer that drills down. Then there's a 5/8 for the threaded insert, and then a 13 millimeter hole that goes all the way through the blank. And so I did this with switching the drill bits out without moving the part. So the next test, hopefully I'll get to tomorrow, is to batch these out and see if I can do the 24 millimeter and then reset it, and then do the 5/8 and then do the 13 millimeter. So we'll see how that works. So hopefully that works well, because it's a lot faster and easier and cleaner than doing that boring on the lathe. So so we'll see. But it's one of those things, it's like you get stuck in your way sometimes, because, hey, this is the way I've always done it. And even though the jig design, the new iteration is a little bit different, I'm still doing things like I used to do them. So it's so anyway, and that's actually exciting. It's actually fun to work through those processes. I'm sure Andy can relate, is, when you sit there and you go, hey, there's a new way of doing this, even though it's the same thing. It's, hey, this is quicker, faster, easier. And so, yeah, it's always fun.
Would it be too far next level to get a small CNC with multi-head ability to auto switch and do all that? I mean, if you had ever gotten to the point where you had to make hundreds of these a month.
Yeah, that would be it. When I had to make.
I'm thinking of that repeatability, but I guess it would have to ramp up considerably.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm only making, at my current rates of sale, since I'm so great at advertising, but at my current demand level, 40 or 50 is fine for basically an entire year. So
okay.
Yeah, but if I was making 100 a month or something like that, there would be a whole new thing. At that point, it's like I might, look at woodpeckers and say, hey, I need to make these out of aluminum now, and get somebody to CNC those things and do all that kind of stuff. But not there yet. Anyway, but with that, Andy, what are you working on in your shop?
So on the bench right now are the wooden tops for the bench dogs that I sell. I'm finishing up a production run, and stepping back from that, it's sort of the wrap up of a big production catch up that's been going on since October when I went full time. So I'm kind of right at the tail end of that, getting caught up. And I think what I'm going to do is post a video pretty soon saying, okay, I'm in stock on everything I make, but when I go out of stock, it's going to be a long time, because I'm going to take a little break from production because I've got lots of new tool launches and other stuff coming. So I'm doing what I think is going to be the last of the product production for a good while. That's my hope.
Mm-hmm. Well, good. So these bench dogs that you make are absolutely fascinating. I mean, they're cool as hell. How many do you keep in stock? What's your goal, I guess, should I say?
So usually when I finish up a production run, I'd like to have a few hundred. I'm not quite going to be there. It's going to be lower, like probably shy of 150 or 80. I have Jatoba and Maple, so about between 50 and 80 of each. I wish it was a little bit more, but I've just got to prioritize other things right now. But over the last couple of years, I'm in the thousands for how many of these I've produced. Probably close to 5,000, which is a lot for the process that I'm using. And that's part of it. Part of the reason for the pause is just to kind of thoroughly rethink everything, get some help. Business could look a little bit different at that point. We'll see, but it's not really sustainable the way I've been doing it.
Yeah. So are you thinking about doing some outsourcing or some things like that?
Yeah. So and there's a design change that I'm making too. And there's a lot actually on this podcast that I'm willing to talk about that hasn't been public yet. The one thing that the bench dogs don't do that I wish they did is pop up when you push them from the top. I like that they've got a circular metal post that's held up with a magnet instead of the wood spring type. It's an unbroken flush wooden top that you can sand. So if you level your bench, you can still sand and flush. And there's no, even though there's a flat on the front of the dog and it can rotate, it's on the unbroken wood surface. So it's not, the screw can't fall in there. I like everything about it except that you have to push them from the bottom. So one of the things I'm working on, one of the new product launches, is a new version that's everything the current one is, except that it has a detent built into it that you push from the top. And that's been a real challenge. I could find nothing off the shelf in the right dimensions that you drill a hole and press fit in.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was a matter of design, hiring an engineer and designing the guts of this little detent and having a custom mold made to make it.
Oh my God.
Wow.
A lot of effort. I really wanted these dogs to pop up from the push on the top. So
all for that pop-o-matic action.
Yep. I just have to check for the mold a couple days ago to make these detents. So no guarantees. We'll have to see. There's a lot of really tight tolerances on a little thing like that. It's different than what we do a lot of times. So we'll have to see how it comes together. But yeah, fingers crossed that it goes well, and I'll be able to launch the new version, maybe middle of this year, and show that they pop up from the top. And then hopefully more advertising plus that feature means more sales, and that really pushes me to a point where I have to do something different. So that was kind of a lot, but that's what's on the bench right now.
Well, cool.
That's awesome.
That is interesting. Well, before we move forward, because if you're willing to share, I'm willing to listen. But before we get to that point, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, and how you got into woodworking?
Sure. We moved around a lot. I was born in Minneapolis. Bounced around several different places in Illinois, lived on the East Coast, a suburb of Pennsylvania for a year, then back to Illinois, college in Indiana. Not a military family. My dad was was a chemical engineer in specialty chemical industry. So he moved around a lot to advance his career. So no real home base, but I'm here in Denver right now. Let's see, what was the second part of the question? How'd I get into woodworking?
Yeah.
So around when I was 25, this was 20 years ago, I decided I wanted eventually to have my own business. I didn't want to be in my 50s with a full-time job. That wasn't the vision. And I thought real estate investing would be a great thing to do between 2006 and 2007.
Oh, fantastic timing.
It was absolutely horrendous timing, like 100-year event, terrible timing. But it did, through the course of that, give me a taste for DIY projects. I didn't know anything coming in. I did have a business partner. He taught me how to do like a bathroom renovation, turn an attic into a dormer, that kind of stuff. And that was really fun. But the fine woodworking was like another level up that that was very conscious that I had no inkling of how to build nice pieces of furniture, and was really intrigued. My business partner was also a bit of a woodworker, so he had more of an idea and kind of got me started and showed me a Grizzly catalog, and you could buy this like industrial kind of stuff for your shop, and it's so cool, and I got really obsessed with it. So closed down, I exited the real estate business without any real financial harm. It ended up being kind of a net break even, just a huge time suck, and got real interested in woodworking. It was all I wanted to talk about to anyone for a couple of years. And I learned on YouTube, eventually started posting on YouTube, built some ambitious pieces of furniture. Those got me a little bit of traction, floated a tool concept out. That got me a lot of traction, and was kind of pulled because of that in the direction of tool development, and ended up, in a very roundabout way, the real estate business did get me to where I wanted to be, which was working for myself on my own business 20 years later, a very circuitous path. So that's my story.
Well, cool.
So your dad was a chemical engineer. You yourself have no engineering background?
No, I have an undergrad degree in chemical engineering also.
Okay, but not mechanical.
Not mechanical.
Okay, yeah.
I'm functionally more of a mechanical engineer.
Yeah, I was about to say just by the nature of what you come up with, it not very many brains think like that, in three-dimensional space, and how can I solve this issue, and or even create a solution to a problem we don't even know exists. So I commend you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Well, did any of your schooling help in what you're doing now? I mean, of course, I'm sure you had to go through the basic stuff that you have to do to get an engineering degree, your mathematics and physics and stuff like that. But
yeah, I mean, engineering is all about figuring out how to solve problems. So
yeah.
And that have a technical, math-based, logic-based nature to them. So in that respect, yeah, certainly. Chemical engineering was less. If I had taken mechanical engineering courses and learned SolidWorks, I probably would have more direct examples of software packages I'm familiar with that help. There wasn't so much of that, but just solving technical problems it prepared me for.
Well, hats off anyone that gets through collegiate level organic chemistry. So
yeah,
yeah, that was fun. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you've done it.
Well, then I think you touched on this a little bit about becoming an entrepreneur in the woodworking space and stuff like that. So what all has that led to? Because I think you've worked with a number of companies during your time in this kind of tool development, tool manufacturing space.
Right. Yeah. So it started, the first real commercial effort when the hobby started to turn into a business was when I put the concept for the add-on blade to a dado set that makes it, that allows it to create what's called a lapped miter joint. Rockler has branded that the Miterfold dado set because they're the ones that licensed it from me. So that was the first like real commercial collaboration. It's really exciting. Worked with Rockler. I did a licensing deal because I just didn't know anything about bringing a physical product to market. The design for manufacturing to finding a factory to packaging and distribution and liability. Like I had zero experience at any of those things. And that's daunting place to be, and licensing just made a lot more sense at that.
Yeah. So do you still get royalties from that?
I still do. Yep. The Rockler has been great. Hats off. No complaint. A great licensing partner.
Cool. Yeah. As Peter Galbert calls it, I think mailbox money.
Yeah. For sure.
Well, cool. Yeah, that is interesting because I've been in that same situation where I've had some ideas and stuff, and around power tools, and it's just I don't know if I want to really get into the liability mix on that.
Right.
Yeah, because I'm sure that's a major thing. And so what else have you done besides that? So you did the Rockler thing, and then who else have you worked with?
So after Rockler, I did the Wood Whisperer thread taps, and the lesser known planer platform. Mark Spagnuolo and I did those together, and licensing those to him was a step closer to doing my own products because physical products were new for him. So I kind of had to take what I'd learned from Rockler, and this time around I was finding the manufacturer and working the design out. There wasn't a team of Rockler engineers to do that, and the Rolodex they have for factories to produce things. So it was still a licensing deal, but a step closer to doing it on my own, working with Mark.
Yeah. Now, are those still being sold?
So he decided that he didn't want to mess with physical products, and gave the business to now I'm gonna blank on the name. They do that fancy router lift, Eagle Tools.
Yeah, Eagle's one. Yeah.
Eagle Tools, and then there's another acronym that I should know. Anyway, sorry, Eagle Tools will get you there. But yeah, they're sold through their site, and then let's see, somebody ripped them off. They started ripping them off, and then I said, don't worry about my royalty. I was getting pushback from the patent office I probably could have gotten through, but it would have taken money with lawyers, and I just didn't feel like fighting the battle. And the Infinity just started making their own, which they're, entitled to do. There was no protection on it. So I just let my royalty go at that point. So every once in a while, I kind of think about, now that I haven't gotten royalties on it for years, I'm sort of a free agent, and I could come out with my own version, try to make it cheaper and just as functional, and add drill bits and a storage system, because nobody's done that. So I toy with that idea. Anyway, yeah, that's where it ended up with the thread taps.
Okay. Cool. Well, did you all have, what is it, 5/8 by 8 threads? Just curious. And nothing related to
nothing specific to Kyle's work. No,
we stopped a 1/16 of an inch short, 9/16.
Yeah, I thought so because I thought I'd looked into that at one point in time. Okay,
did we miss you by one increment?
You missed me by one.
Oh, bummer. I mean, we thought about stopping at 1/2 inch.
Yeah, most
pretty big.
Yeah.
So, and even that one, like the dog tops that I was just talking about have a threaded connection. So I've tapped thousands of holes by hand with that 9/16. And I had to buy a special drill to do it.
No way.
Because, you're doing it over and over again.
Yeah.
Sort of feathering in I'm just kind of using the trigger lightly to get the drill to rotate, and it overheats because you've got current and no air.
Oh, yeah.
So I had to buy, it's actually just recently, I went to Harbor Freight and they had a $60 low speed drill mixer. So it's like a drill, but kind of set up to do concrete mixing. So it's real low speed. And that one does a much better job because the motor spins more for every chuck rotation and it doesn't overheat. So even at that biggest tap, I've run into trouble with the drill. So you definitely want that if you're drilling lots of holes at 5/8.
Yeah. So, well, the system I got works pretty well. No complaints, no return. So, hey.
Are you, Kyle, do you more traditionally tap those? I mean, with a true tap set? Like
No. I use instead of tapping it, I use epoxy and epoxy these things in place.
Oh,
so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But if I could tap it, actually, it would probably it's one of those things that, hey, yeah, this would be smarter to do, but would probably add another 2 steps to my production process. Not great, but I've already done that a number of times because that's how I am. It's like, can I make this any better? Yes, I can. Have I had any complaints? No, I haven't. But it's a lot of times you do this for yourself.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, you have to. I mean, if you're making things for people, you can't just go off complaints. You have to have, more of a vision for what it should be than your customers. Like by definition, if you're going to be one putting new things out there.
Yeah, and that's part of the fun of doing this is, just, hey, how can I improve it? Constantly improving, new iteration and that kind of thing.
Right.
Well, so tell us a little bit about some of the products and solutions that you're currently selling.
So right now I have a category of products that I'll start with one that I'm shutting down and phasing out.
Okay.
At the same time, so after the thread taps, I started working, I had enough confidence to do my own products. And the 2 that I launched were the twin turbo vise and the pencil making tool and a bunch of accessories for pencil making tool. And that's the pencil making tool is the one that I'm shutting down. It's had a good run. I've enjoyed it. But it's been a harder lift to get continuous sales. The vice really is like kind of rolls down the hill on its own. You get vices out there, people post them. Those sales come in without a lot of effort. The pencil tool was a constant grind trying to get content out to make sales, and it's hard content to make. So I'm shutting that one down. Next is the twin turbo vise, which is a gear coupled twin screw vise that has a low speed and a high speed. So I like twin screw vices, the non-racking feature, being able to clamp something large between or use it as a tail vise on just one side and it doesn't rack. I was very set on wanting a twin screw vise. I didn't like how slow they were to operate, and there were a few fiddly things about really the 2 front runner options, the Lee Nielsen and the Veritas one that
I don't need a bicycle chain.
And just the stuff about them that I tried them both at people's shops. The Lee Nielsen is better, but I wanted it to be able to open quickly. I wanted and like some kind of something similar to a quick release, which the high speed functions like the quick release on the Vice I design. So I sell that and a number of accessories for that, like a swivel mount, and I would count the bench dogs that I've been talking about as an accessory to the Vice, kind of all in that product family, which I actually have a name for that I haven't. It's on my website. I haven't made a big deal about it yet. But
the DOS bench.
DOS bench, yes. So yes, I'm thinking about how to make talk about it at that level. I'm not quite ready yet, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, before we move on from the twin turbo Vice,
sure.
So tell me a little bit about the swivel mount. I assume that's to clamp tapered items and things that are not flat and stuff like that, correct? Kind of like a pattern maker's Vice or something like that.
Yeah, it's a pattern maker's Vice flips around and does a pirouette and all this crazy stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's not to that level, but it does give you 1 degree of rotational freedom so that the jaw can pivot about 20 degrees to clamp at an angle. So the other, I really don't want any competing Vice to have features that are better than mine. Even if most of mine are better, like I want to have everything better. And Veritas does have, I don't know exactly how it works, to be honest, but you pull a pin and then the jaw can pivot. It's got some ability to cant the jaw and clamp at an angle. And mine didn't, because it's all rigidly locked together with gears. So I came up with that accessory to add that feature and do it even better and get more of a pivot and lock everything into place more solidly, if that's something that you want. So yeah, that's the swivel mount. Yeah.
Well, after seeing these and playing with them, I can't believe the pricing on these things. They should be much more expensive in my mind, but
But I'm glad to feel that way. Getting that price point down and maintaining the quality and the functionality has eaten up a tremendous amount of my time over the last 5 years trying to get there. It's very challenging, but thank you. So thank you for that.
Yeah, very impressed with that. So what else you got?
And then beyond that is the Pika screws. Now this is right now. I've got in a year from now, it's going to look very different. But I've got the Pika screws, which is a screw with a hidden slot that only appears when you depress a plunger in the center. I don't have many accessories that go with it right now, but I do have standoffs that make it ideal for the sign industry or displays. So I have gotten some commercial business in that direction, but
very good.
Talking about new stuff, accessories for the Pika screws are a lot of what I'm going to be launching is not all, but a lot of what I'm going to be launching is accessories that go with the Pika screws to make it very clear specific function that you can accomplish with them rather than just a general purpose screw. Because I've gotten a lot of, the videos go viral, they do very well. I get all this excitement, but people say, well, what am I supposed to, what do I do with them? And me building one-off projects with them helps, but I think that hardware intended to solve specific, make it a specific solution will make it even easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's brilliant. I think at Texas Woodworking Festival where we met back up, and I was like, you gave me one and the little thing, and like I said, I haven't used it for anything, but I will use it as a fidget tool from time to time.
I want it to be more than a fidget tool.
Exactly. But it's pretty darn cool. It's pretty darn cool. And I can't believe they're as inexpensive as they are. Yeah.
Also, is it EDM? Is that how you cut that?
It's not EDM. No? I started there with quotes and they were over the moon expensive. Just bonkers expensive. So very quickly, like one of the first, the Pika screws has been a bit of a journey. The first ones I was selling for about $20 a piece, and now I've got the price down to I think $6 a piece for the brass screws. But even the more expensive ones, I decided to go with traditional machining and figured out a trick to get the surface appearance that I want, to make everyone think it's wire EDM without the costs that I was seeing when I got those quotes.
Cool. Yeah, I'm in the same boat with Kyle. Like I see these, they like, I'm a tinkerer kind of person. They fascinate me. I'm like, what in the world can I use these for?
I'm hoping to make that a lot easier, so I can talk about some of the things.
Well, cool. Well, before we get to that, because I want to ask you what your new products are, but I think I would be remiss if I didn't ask you first, how do you come up with these ideas?
So, I mean, it's sort of a different story for everyone. The twin turbo vise was not quite liking any of the vices on the market. Like, for example, if Benchcrafted had a glide twin screw vise coupled with some fancy bearing gear thing, and I just loved it, I just would have bought that and moved on with it, and I never would have come up with the twin turbo vise. So that was just a matter of recognizing I wasn't quite satisfied with any of my options. They're still pretty expensive, and just a lot of obsession about what could it be? How could I make the vise that I want? Pika screw was, so have you seen the wire EDM videos where two pieces of metal slide into each other? They're always like kind of, it seems like wire EDM fabricators make these as a flex. It's their show off, but they just kind of sit on a desk. They don't accomplish any function. But I'd see these videos, and there's something very satisfying about seeing it happen, and the views would just be off the chart. There'd be 16 million views on every one of these videos, and people commenting, and so it was very clear that something in the human mind really likes that, two pieces of metal going together and the seam disappears. So I just thought if you could do something that was functional and still have that cool factor, that functional thing would have a lot of potential. What could it be? And it sat in what could it be mode for a long time before just one morning I got the idea that, well, it could be a screw. Like, that's a very versatile. It's versatile. You can use it for a lot of things. It embodies this the seamless mating up of two pieces of metal very well, and so I went with it. So each one is kind of different.
Cool. Well, so do you have anything new to announce?
Lots of new stuff to announce, or that I can talk about. I mean, it's not launched yet, and the reason why nobody's going to see it visually, so they hear me talk about it, but I think I'm not losing any sort of viral pop by talking about it. That's why I'm willing. So just to lay it out. So maybe I'll go through a list of things. On the Pika screws, I think the most interesting accessory that I'm going to have is leveling feet. So the Pika screw, right now, any leveling foot is a really clunky looking industrial thing. Like, there's no leveling foot you could put at the bottom of a Krenov style cabinet. But the one I'm going to design, you could, because all you're going to see is the sleek, unbroken disc of a Pika screw that locks the base into place. And so you could take the screw out, rotate it at a quarter a turn to get it perfectly leveled up and put it back. So
I'm also thinking about high-end audio.
High-end audio, I mean, I think it could be a nice thing to work into lots of high-end pieces of furniture, just to say, hey, look, your floor may not be perfectly even, but this maintains the really high aesthetic bar that my fine furniture demands, but also lets you level it up so you don't have a Post-it note stuck underneath this $5,000 table I made you, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm hoping for. And it'll also, I think, give me part of the reason I'm so excited about the Pika screws is that the marketing of the screws is going to be me building cool pieces of furniture with them, which was the whole purpose in the first place, right? So it kind of gets me back where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to some cool builds with a leveling foot. Just to show it off and do it justice. So that's one. Got a new version of the twin turbo vise coming out.
New gearing technology, new ideas behind the motion, or some aesthetic difference?
A little bit of all. The form and the teeth of the gears are going to be the same. The method of production is going to be different.
Okay.
I'm going to go for metal injection molding instead of laser cut gears. The challenge on this is the cost of those molds is really high. Right. But when you go to, so if you're just starting with flat material and you're laser cutting versus now you can do something custom in all dimensions, it can really open up a lot of possibilities, both for some economies, because you can get rid of some hardware. You can make the setup a lot easier for the user, so you get the vise together a lot faster. And there are a number of other, there's some tolerances are easier to deal with in the molded version. So that's one key difference. It's gonna, like right now with the current version of the vise, I had a flip handle that let you kind of do the crank style actuation of the vise. That's going to be just a built-in option. So it's going to be the standard handle, but it's also going to have incorporated within it a flip handle that pops out and rotates around, the detent in the middle. So that I'm taking that optional add-on accessory and it's been a very popular one, and just building it into the vise. Those are the primary differences. It's gonna use Pika screws. So it's going to be.
Of course it would. Yes.
It's amazing it took me so long to realize that it should, because the screws on the vise are exactly the same size as the Pika screws. Are very.
Yeah. Okay.
And what I want companies with high-end products to consider Pika screws for the aesthetic value, and there's no better product for it than the twin turbo vise. So, I mean, I've got to lead by example. So it's gonna have a really cool look to it. I mean, and that with the molded gears, a lot of the faces of the fasteners are going to be gone, and it's gonna look like a whole nother level of professional product. So it's got functional advantages, aesthetic advantages, new built-in features that used to be optional accessories. I'm really excited about it.
Oh, that's cool. Very cool.
Anything else?
But lots more. Lots more.
All right, listeners, you can't say I didn't try. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
is there, let me ask real quick. So in the change in how you're manufacturing, is there a question on tolerances or how to fit them? Is it a challenge again getting, because I love, and I'm sure it's one of the key points, that the operational head of that thing seamlessly inserts. Like it is absolutely like micron tight. How easy is that in changing that from laser cut to injection?
So just to be clear, the change from laser cut to injection was the gears on the twin turbo.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I just blended. You just talked about that. I apologize.
Right. So the Pika screws have always been traditional milling, because, like I said, EDM was too expensive. And I can talk about the trick. The thing that allows it to still look like it's EDM level tolerance is that the central plunger on the screw meets the screw head at an angled chamfer.
Okay.
So during the process of assembling and finishing the screws, there's a step where the plunger is pressed into the screw head from the back. So picture looking at that under a microscope. Those two bevels meet each other. There's some pressure. They deform a little bit, right? They fill some gaps. Okay, now you rotate it all and you grind them together. And that grinding of the metal fills in some of the gaps that the pressing of the chamfer didn't, right? And now it really looks like one piece of metal. And when you push the plunger back, you feel like a little bit of resistance because they were so tight, and then it pops and separates and you can see it, but then it slides back into place. Like, you kind of picture how this is all coming together, right? That is the trick that allowed for the look that I wanted. It was very challenging They're made overseas. It was just, I got quotes in the US. It just unfortunately wasn't feasible. Maybe someday, we'll see. It was very challenging getting across what I wanted the process to be, because if you just press the plunger in to the screw head and assemble it and you don't grind them together, you run your finger over it and it's smooth and feels perfect, but your eye just goes to the plunger because it's a different milling pattern and it just doesn't look right at all. And getting them to understand that was really challenging. I had to hire a Chinese voice actress to I'm not kidding.
Oh my God.
Oh man.
The job, and I paid $200 for a Chinese voice actress to do a voiceover for a video that I made, step by, sentence by sentence block, so I knew which part of the audio to put where, to send to this factory so they could get it through their heads what I wanted.
That's
and I think they knew what I wanted, but it wasn't until I made that video they realized that I wasn't going to quit until I got it.
Yeah. So
this guy's serious.
I will go to all ends to get
Yeah.
There's no question you're not understanding what I'm saying at this point.
Yeah.
That's
so that was
wild.
like January of last year, and then they made prototypes. They finally came in the way I wanted, and I launched a year ago.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It is the process. Yours is far more accurate, but it's a double bevel, like marquetry technique, where you're cutting stacked materials at a common angle.
You're absolutely right. It's
and
the
they
exact
slip
same.
into each other.
It's the exact same principle as double bevel marquetry. I never thought of it that way, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. It was cool when we were at Texas Woodworking Festival, because I was talking to some kitchen cabinet installers and custom kitchen cabinets and stuff. I go, you need to go talk to Andy because he's got some hardware you may want to take advantage.
Yeah.
So I could see, stuff like that, being able to screw something in and, hey, instead of ugly screw here, you got an accent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you hit it, Andy, with signage. Like you see those kind of things. I've seen. I'm thinking of like glass signage when there's a glass held up and you see that post that's holding it.
Yeah.
If it could be, fashioned with an internal fastener like the Pika screw, there's an opportunity there. I don't know the details therein, but that immediately went to my head when you said signs. I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen like metal holding signs in a cylinder before.
So I've got. It's too bad you can't see it, but if you go back on my Instagram a little while, there's an inclined sign, like made by a professional sign shop using Pika screws. Nice. And I walked in with them and explained the whole thing. So I think like this summer, one of the things I'm going to try to do is get some sign shops to carry them, and try to get some business going that way, because I think signs is a great. The hardware is very simple. The thing it's holding up doesn't weigh a lot, so there are voids and internal things inside the Pika screw. So I don't think I can immediately go to NASA or SpaceX and put them on that. I'd have to really understand the strength better, but not for signs. They're plenty strong enough. So.
Sure. And there's a kind of an inherent tamper proof to them, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
You look at them and you don't think they're operable,
right?
Even though they are, which is an awesome.
Right. You can, if you're willing to ruin them, you can always just stick a flathead screwdriver in and unscrew them and get them.
But when do you ever see what looks like a cylindrical post and think that you can penetrate it with anything?
Right.
And that's the trick.
Yeah, and for the people who have a hard time envisioning this, yes, there's those screw in like metal caps, but the Pika screw will allow you to actually get it flush.
Right.
Which is I think the biggest difference. So it becomes more architectural than it does utilitarian. So
right.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Well, so what's your process to bring these products to market? Prototyping to production. Is there a set process that you go through, a workflow, or is it like me, haphazard?
It's pretty haphazard.
Okay. Good. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah.
I've gotten more efficient. I would say, and I can kind of anticipate some things for any given product. Like at this point, I have some fabricators that I know are very good, and that if I get them a step file, like a good step file, then what I'm going to receive from them is going to be awfully close to perfect. maybe a one little tweak, and then it's ready to sell. So at this point, having developed some relationships with good suppliers, it's a lot faster. When it was my first go around of selling my own products, and I was trying to do the twin turbo vise, it was like messaging so many fabrication shops and getting different answers, and some were good for one part but not another, and so the efficiency is probably the biggest efficiency has been developing those relationships with the fabricators.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah. And that makes complete sense.
Right.
Now, what about marketing? So how are you marketing your products? I know you do some YouTube, some Instagram.
I mean, it's all that organic reach on social media platforms. Collaborations, the building a workbench for Adam Savage and having him talk about the vises. That was a big boost to sales, and I've had other good collaborations. So it's really collaborations and my own content.
Cool.
Like I've tried to run Instagram ads. I've got my products up on Amazon. The problem is Amazon has their whole system designed to get all the money for them. Like it's very clear that's what they're doing. So
imagine that,
right? Even if you go buy a twin turbo vise from my Amazon store, like I'll do okay, but their cut is big, irritatingly big. And then, but nobody ever finds it. So to get people to organically find it, it makes no sense for me to post a YouTube video and say, go to Amazon, because if I post a YouTube video and drop a link, I'll do it to my own website where I don't have to pay a platform fee. The only value of the platform is if it has reach, and it doesn't have any reach unless you pay for more marketing through Amazon, in which case, you've jumped up to even a whole new tier of how much they're taking. And my margin structure just can't handle that. Maybe some people with much higher initial margins can pay those Amazon marketing fees and make it work, but I haven't been able to be successful that way. So the only thing I found that works is partnerships and my own content.
Cool. Well, tell us about that. So what was it like working with Adam Savage? How'd that come about?
Somebody who I wish I remembered the name, but somebody sent me like either a comment or maybe an Instagram DM, or reached out in some way and said, I was just listening to Adam Savage and he's complaining about his workbench. You should go collab with him and get him twin turbo vises. And I wrote back and said, how am I supposed to get in touch with Adam Savage? I said,
how does that work?
Snarky. Then I thought about it. I was like, well, I mean, I could at least try, right? I mean, I could spend a little bit of time finding every Adam Savage related email that I could find and just lay out a proposal. And so I did that. And then I heard back from Adam Savage the next day. And he said, yeah, I'm in. You want to build me a bench and put these awesome vises on it? I'll absolutely show off your products and talk about them. That's what it was. So,
hey,
you just got to try. Yeah.
Yeah,
probably,
exactly.
A lot of other things that I haven't tried that would have worked. Right. That's the method.
Yeah. You learn.
Now we mentioned earlier you've been working with Mark Spagnolo on a couple of projects, and currently with your vices on his new workbenches and stuff like that he has for his classes. So how long have you known Mark, and how'd y'all hook up?
So I mean, I knew him a long time before.
Hook up is a wrong thing. I should not have used that.
We don't judge how.
When I was a kid, hook up meant a whole different thing. But
I mean, Mark was early on when I was trying to get my bearings as a woodworker and learning to do the most basic things. Mark was really important. His videos were a big part of getting me over some critical frustration points, and teaching me a thought process. So I was a big fan from the beginning. He knew. Let's see. I was living in Minnesota. The Rockler, or what became the Miterful Dado set, put me on the map. I was friends with Matt Cremona, who had some collaborations going with Mark. so there was a little, I remember there were a few times Matt Cremona was over and he's texting Mark, and Mark saying, hey, I think my video just gone viral, and Mark texts back, hey, I think there's a blade in that shop somewhere that's pretty valuable. You should try to grab it. So he became aware of me at that point. And then I was looking around for my next thing after the Rockler deal, and I thought it would be a good fit working with him because he hadn't done physical products before. I could get a little bit more involved. I recognized it as a step closer to doing my own products because he'd need more guidance with finding fabricators, and the corresponding percentage I could ask for could be a little bit higher because I'm doing more. Like, for a lot of reasons, I get to work with somebody who's been a big influence. That's a really cool thing to be able to do. It just made sense for a lot of reasons. So I pitched it and he went for it.
Cool. That's awesome. I think the first time, and you may not even remember this, I think the first time, because you made an impression on me, I think I met you at a Woodworking in America in Kansas City.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
That was a long time ago, but I remember us being in the lobby of that place.
Yeah.
And you, as a whole group of us, and you made the proposition as like, what product can we come up with that's going to change woodwork? Something to that effect. And then, we kind of laughed and discussed a little bit. Then you walked away, and I went, this guy's different. This guy's different.
Who does this clown think he is?
No, I never did think that. I was like, interesting. I think you were riding the wave of the miter fold thing, but
certainly could be.
Yeah. But I remember thinking, yeah, this guy's going to make something. And then, when you came out with the vise, I'm just like, yeah, there you go. And then you keep coming on, and you have a bunch of stuff you won't tell us about. So anyway,
there's just too much.
There's just too much.
That's fair. I think it's funny that you were friends with Cremona before you knew Mark, because when I first met Cremona, he was the shy little guy. We interviewed him as a small thing at one of the Woodworking Americas 10, 12 years ago, and boy, he's really expanded quite a bit.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we lived real close to each other.
I didn't realize. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was at an early Woodworking in America, I think before even the one you were mentioning, because it was before the miter fold set. And he saw my badge said Plymouth. He's like, "Oh, you live right next to me."
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so that was I think all I had done at that point of any note was the fossil table, the third video on my YouTube channel that David Picciuto put on his Drunken Woodworker wrap-up thing. That was my first little bit of visibility.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that brought back memories. The Drunken Woodworker, yes.
I was also lucky enough to be on one of those episodes, except I was in his basement. Like, I got to, because he lives here. He lives right near me. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, cool. Well, so tell us a little bit about your shop. What kind of equipment you got in there?
Oh, it's pretty standard. So I've got 1,400 square feet in the basement. Lower ceilings than I'd like, a little shy of 8 feet. The biggest thing I've got is a 5-foot by 10-foot Avid CNC machine.
Okay.
I've got a table saw and a planer. I don't have a joiner. I've lived without a joiner for quite a while. Drill press. Let's see. I've got some metalworking tools. I've got a welding setup and a wire feed welder. I've got one of those fancy knife maker belt grinder things, the variable speed motor. So that's pretty cool. I had reason to purchase that guy. Beyond that, 7 routers like everyone.
Yeah. Well, now are you using like 3D printers and stuff to prototype?
Yeah. I actually can't. This isn't helpful for folks on the podcast, but you can see them right here under my slab table. I've got 3 of the Anchor Make 3D printers for prototyping, and then also some of the things I sell, I print on those. I've got some router bit storage and accessories for MagSwitch products that I now carry that I print on those guys. So if I was going to do it all over again, I'd get the Bamboo Lab that everyone raves about.
Yeah, they're good things.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I'm in the market. I haven't made a decision yet. I think Elgu has a new thing out, this carbon thing, but it looked like it's not coming out till the summer. But it like competes somewhat with Bamboo Labs. They got 3 tiers. They got the A1, the P1, and the X1, and I think it competes with the X1. But it's like I think they're going to come in at like under $500 for them.
Oh, that'd be interesting. Yeah, Bamboo could definitely use some real competition.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, well, so I was going to ask you if you had any time to make any furniture projects since you're so busy. But it sounds like you're making time to make. I'm
trying to get there. Like, yeah. I went full time 4 months ago, and I was so behind on so many things. I had back orders on an upgraded bearing support for the twin turbo vise that was just coming in, and it came in with this flaw that I had to rework myself. I was behind on production of twin turbo vise jaws, so those were back ordered, and I had to catch up on that. Ditto for the dog tops, some of those 3D printed products that I'd mentioned. Just a ton of stuff that I was behind on, and it was coming into the holiday too, so there's this big rush of sales. I'm still packing every single package myself, so it's been an intense 4 months of trying to catch up and get to the point where I have a little bit of free time to start launching all these products that I've been putting time and effort into at the same time. So it's been an effort to clean house in the last 4 months. There hasn't been a lot of, I don't think there's been much exciting happening on my channel, to be real honest, in the last month, because I closed out the pencil making tool, and I've done a bunch of sales on twin turbo vise and, some shop upgrade products or projects, but it has not been the most exciting time because all the cool stuff is not for public consumption yet, but that's about to change real soon.
Well, cool. Well, so what about your pursuits outside of woodworking? What do you like to do?
This business really is my top priority. I mean, I do snowboard. Yeah. I was snowboarding a vacation the last couple of days with my brother. I go to my son's basketball games. So there's this stuff that I do for family that you can't cut all that out. That's no kind of life. But beyond that, this is my top priority right now. It's a really critical time for the business. Like the big question is, I'm confident that I can pay my salary and I can feed my family. But the big question is, can I create enough extra income that I can take on more ambitious projects and get it to start growing and it looks meaningfully different 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. That how the next year goes matters a lot, and the time that I have to dedicate to it is a big part of that. So
yeah.
Well, cool. Well, per our conversation before we got started, if you need a recruitment video for your son, I might know it.
Yeah, man, just let me know.
Well, with that, let's move on to our fortnightly beer choices. So I'm just drinking the house beer, Guinness, and nothing too special. Sean, what about yourself?
I'm sharing something. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we can see that. What is that?
This is an entirely new. This is a new product going in a new direction. Maybe you could describe for the audience what you're seeing.
Oh, okay.
That is a bit selector thumb screwdriver.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. See, you rotate it and it selects a new bit.
Yep.
You move that brass thing probably back and then rotate it and then push it forward and it ejects and inserts a new bit.
Yes.
Is that for wear or for different bits or both?
You can pull out the bits. So you can pull out the bits and load it up with whatever 9 standard 1/4-inch bits you want in there. So if you want Robertson, different sizes, Phillips, flathead, you can set it up how you want it. And it goes the back side of this is a belt clip.
That is an incredible. Oh, okay. So you can have it at the ready.
Yeah. So the back end indents with each bit, the brass thing at the back.
Right.
Interesting. And since it's kind of round, you can put a little bit of torque or you can really crank on it.
The idea, right? Exactly. So
Yeah.
the idea with something that you carry on your person, is not that it gets rid of the need to ever grab a screwdriver. Like that's not the case. What you want to do is eliminate as many situations as possible where you have to go to a toolbox or wherever the screwdriver is, because you can pull this off your belt, go to the right bit, quickly do the operation, put it back. So, and this form factor just didn't exist, and I felt like there was room in the market. I think you'd probably also agree this is like a higher end kind of the brass and the stainless looking thing. It's kind of like maker knife. I love Jocko's products.
I was going to say, you have to know about Jocko, and
absolutely, I do.
Yeah, I've wanted a maker knife. I haven't so far gotten a chance to get one. But his screwdriver, I forget what it's called, but like that momentum
kinetic driver,
kinetic
different use case.
Totally different use case. That is completely different. But
but I love what he does, and certainly there's some Jocko influence in this one, for sure. So
that's so cool.
That is very cool.
Anyway,
okay,
it's got a touch of like Seth Gold in it to me too. The guy that makes the Smithsonian style like clocks and locks and stuff.
Oh yeah, it's got some 60s like airline mode something going on.
I mean, it reminded me of the rotary dial phones.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
That's
nice.
In my head as all right. The design was coming together.
But you can keep your name ideas until you finally release it.
There's
ideas out there.
Yes, sure. This has got to be just the most irritating thing to listen to.
Because you can't see what we're talking about.
It won't be too long before you can see what we're.
I will say what you just showed us is what looks like a functional prototype at very, very least.
Yes.
Yeah. It's got some problems. I've done a design revision since this one. This is a tough thing to do. I've burned more engineering dollars than I ever have before, because all the little tolerances and how things slide and click and there's so the one that you're seeing kind of jams up when it's at certain points and required a fairly substantial round of redesign. With the next prototype being made, so hopefully that fixes the problems. I'm hopeful that it will. So
awesome.
All right, very cool.
All right, sorry to do.
No, it's all good.
No.
Love it.
I like that. Okay,
love it.
So listeners, there is something to come, and that is fascinating. That is absolutely fascinating.
You
already want one.
You really pay attention when we share Andy's socials that. You subscribe if you already aren't to check out all his new stuff.
Exactly. Well, let's see, where were we? Our fortnightly beer choices. So,
yes.
So I am drinking Guinness, my house beer, and nothing major to report. Sean, what are you drinking?
I'm going to echo. I'm drinking my house beer, which is Miller Lite, a little more see-through than your house beer.
Yes.
Brian, how about you? Something a little more interesting?
Well, yeah. Kyle actually sent me some Texas beers, so I'm drinking Rodeo Clown by is it pronounced Karbach?
Yeah,
Karbach Brewing Company out of Houston. On the top of it says "Get down with the clown," so it's pretty cool. I like it. It's good.
Good.
Yeah.
I
did. I got a chance. I think I had at least one Karbach when I was down in Austin. I cannot remember what it was. It probably wasn't anything rare or spectacular, but it was good.
Yeah. Well, Brian sent me a bunch of beers, but every time I was drinking one, he wasn't on the episodes.
Yeah. Hey.
I recommended them all, but
I gotta go back up that way. Late March, early April, so I have to restock and send you guys some.
Okay.
Man, I wish I had more stuff around me that was unique. I mean, there is some. We should make a trifecta trade going on here.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
So, Andy, do you have anything to recommend?
I don't. I have not been drinking a lot of beer.
That's good. That's all right. That's healthier. You're healthier than we are.
I've cut way back on alcohol.
Well, that's good. Sean went like 2 weeks without drinking.
Oh, I don't even know if I made it that. Dry January was dry a few days.
Yeah, I have. What I will say is that the non-alcoholic beers have gotten a lot better.
Oh yeah.
And Mark's not on tonight, but he has also turned to that, and he's shared with us more than I ever knew existed.
Yeah.
Varieties and brands of non-alcoholic.
There's a ton, and a lot of them are really good. I like them. Like, I like the taste of beer, and I like having, like, if I'm having pizza for lunch, you can just get 2 of them and throw them back, and not worry. It's fantastic. I
that's
love
pretty cool.
that particular taste combination of pizza and beer. I'm not really looking for a buzz in the middle of the day if I'm having some pizza. So I've really enjoyed that, and definitely would take any suggestions for good non-alcoholic beers. I usually just grab the Athletic brand because
Mark's mentioned that, and then there was some brand that I think something Carpenter. I know I had Carpenter in the brand. I don't know if that's the one that's sold by Total Wine or not. I don't know if you have Total Wine in a Denver area or not.
We may. It's not something I recall seeing, but
it's a big box store, liquor store type thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
that's more south, I think, Kyle.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe so. Anyway, but it's something Carpenter, but it was a NA beer that was one of his favorites.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So be on the lookout. But anyway, with that said, so Andy, where can folks find you on the interwebs?
All right. Well, you can find me on my YouTube channel is Andrew Klein, Klein, and I'm on Instagram. Let's see, with a really dumb, weird handle, Klein2303. Put in twin turbo vice. You'll find me. That's
there you go.
There you go.
That's that'll get you to me and people posting interesting stuff about my products. So I'll leave it at that. That'll get you started.
Well, fantastic. Well, for reviews, one of the things we haven't done in probably a few months is look at our Apple reviews. So we do have a couple, and I want to highlight a couple of people. Greg LA2 wrote, while the entire episode was good, the golden nugget at the end when Shay talks about finding and devoting the time to get woodworking projects done. Great to reflect and consider how to be better at allocating to projects. And yes, I can't read and or speak and read at the same time. But anyway, fantastic. I thank you so much, Greg LA2. And I think that was our Shay Alexander episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then one from, a frequent guest of the podcast, one Wilbur Pan. He says, due to lack of time, I'm way behind on my podcast listening with over 61 podcast episodes across 17 shows waiting in my listening queue. The MWA podcast is the only one I'm caught up with. That's how good this podcast is.
That's right. That's glowing.
He's trying to get back on the show.
Yeah.
You know what? So the SNL 50 thing was just last weekend, and they were going through like previous hosts and stuff. I didn't realize, and now I got to remember who it was. Somebody has hosted 22 times. I thought the 5 Club was big.
Mm.
It wasn't Alec Baldwin, and it wasn't. I can't remember, but that struck me. I was like, really? This is 50 years of the show. Somebody's done this 22 times. That is far beyond anyone else.
Yeah. All I know is our list is they put up for free the first episode with George Carlin.
Oh, did they?
Yes. It was on YouTube as hey, you can watch the entire episode, and it's like, wow, this is so much different. And it wasn't that funny, but
No, but hey. The special that ran, it was on a Sunday.
I know, but
live show.
Yeah. As part of their 50th anniversary, they just put up on YouTube. Yeah, here's the first episode in its entirety. So
and I've heard from another source that you can find their old stuff all the way back to the early stuff, but it's super truncated. Mm-hmm. Some episodes are only 17 minutes long or something because of political or social or something that's just not welcome anymore. They're not producing.
Could be that. It could be just editing out the unfunny bits. Who knows?
Well, that too. There was sometimes, but if you Kyle, you're older than we are, but by a bit, but not a ton. Sorry.
But let's put it this way. I was in 5th grade when they started airing.
Hey, there you go. And I was -3. So there you go.
And the only thing I remember is this had to be in the first episode is Gilda Radner sitting in this huge chair.
Yep.
You've seen that. Yes.
Yep.
And that's one of my earliest memories of Saturday Night Live. Yeah.
Rosanna Dana.
No, she was playing like a little kid or something like that.
Yeah.
But they just had her sitting in this chair that they must have built that, just huge.
But
Anyway.
really, the old timers, I think, still loom large, and that might be generational because I haven't watched it in a long time. But when they were, I mean, Dan Aykroyd and all those old guys were out there. Like those are who I remember.
Yeah,
they were awesome.
No Coke, Pepsi.
Anyway.
Belushi was great.
Well, with that, dear listeners, we'll leave you, and I probably will cut it off before all this mess. Anyway. And that just about wraps it up for this show. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the show on the podcatcher of your choice. Just search for the Modern Woodworkers Association. And while you're there, please leave us a review. You can follow us on Instagram at MWA_podcast. And if you'd like to support the podcast, go over to patreon.com/MWA podcast. But the best thing you can do is tell a friend. Word of mouth goes a long way in sharing our discussion.